Merhaba arkadaşlar, hepiniz IEFT Talks webinarlarına hoş geldiniz. Bugün Teksas'ın en büyük üniversitelerinden The University of North Texas'ta işletme programlarını Peter, May ve Tiara'dan dinliyor olacağız. Lütfen sorularınızı questions kısmından sormayı unutmayın. Yes, Peter, the stage is yours now.
Thank you, Zeynep. All right, well, welcome everyone. My name is Peter from Maryland. I'm the Director of International Recruitment at University of North Texas. And I'm joined today also by my colleagues May and Tiara, and they will help us to answer your questions at the end of our presentation. So a big word of thank you to IEFT with their IEFT Talks. It's been a great platform. They're a wonderful partner for us in Turkey and helping us really to get good information out to the students about their majors of the future that they can choose to be competitive, to get internships, and line up for the new careers. You know, the new careers will be different as our economies recover after the pandemic. We're definitely going to be in the middle of a big data economy. And so I want to talk to you today about the business careers and the business major studies you can choose to prepare for those new careers. So we're the University of North Texas. We're located in the Dallas-Fort Worth metropolis. If you took a pin, you stuck it in the middle of the map of the US, a little bit towards the south, you'd get to Dallas-Fort Worth. Dallas-Fort Worth, if this was a country, this would be the 10th largest economy in the world. And here's the reason why. Dallas-Fort Worth is fantastically connected to the rest of the world, the global economy, through this big economic motor called Dallas-Fort Worth Airport. It has 7 runways. It processes more than 50 million people a year. And it's really the way that our economy is connected to the economy worldwide. So here's the one of the centers of the metropolis, the Dallas city area, with a lot of the leading companies in the world in high tech, in accounting, in computers, in defense industry, in the oil sector, many great internship opportunities right on our doorstep. And so we're located just a little bit north of this big city area in a suburb called Denton, Texas, which is a wonderful, safe student town. You see the town square here with lots of restaurants and music opportunities for students to have a great time. Our campus is like a village in itself. We are one of the largest public universities in the US. We have more than 40,000 students on our campus. About 3,000 international students are with us. So we're a tree-lined campus, a residential campus, so the students live with us on campus. And this campus has many, many great facilities, 17 different halls where the students can live, many different restaurants on campus. We have our own fire station, our own police station. It's a huge, huge facility. The ranking that's most important for the University of North Texas is the Carnegie Foundation Tier 1 ranking, which ranks us among the top 3% of research universities in the US. So we want to talk to you today about how to choose a degree of the future in the area of business. You know, I already said that the new economy, as our economies recover from the pandemic, will be a different economy. And we want to make sure that you have a good view of the different choices of studies you can choose, to be ready for this new economy. And, you know, traditionally we've seen students make great choices to study accounting or finance or to pursue an MBA. And really recently there's been a pendulum that has swung back away from the more generic degrees like accounting or MBA, and more towards specialized master's programs in business. And so we want to put those on the map for you and allow you to make a choice where you be successful in competing for the new internships. So a quick look at the history of business, just so that you're aware of the different choices, the different majors that are out there, so that you can make a well-informed choice. After this little overview, I'll pick out the 6 majors of the future that I feel at the moment in this economy will be your best choice to get an internship and to launch your career. So when business started out, it was all about trade and commerce, right? People bartered and exchanged basic commodities like rice, and the economy grew from there to a much more sophisticated economy. And one of the first disciplines that grew up in business was the discipline of accounting, right? People had to keep track of their transactions, and so the accounting industry came about, and this is still one of the staple studies that you can study in business, and a great choice to study. Of course, after accounting, very soon the discipline of taxation came along as well, because of course it's the government who wanted their slice first of whatever profits were made in business. Soon after accounting, we also started to take a macro view of trade and commerce, and so came along the discipline of economics. Economics, the way of looking at supply and demand, the way of adding up the national product and how much economic activity there is. And out of economics, of course, at the key of economics is money. And so the discipline of finance developed how to manage your financial resources. And finance, well, the world of finance, of course, is very much related to risk and the avoidance of risk. And so from that developed the risk and insurance discipline. Recently, of course, we've seen a lot of volatility in the financial markets, lots of uncertainty, and so risk and insurance is becoming more and more important. So here you see the origins, the basics of the business discipline, with accounting and economics and finance as the core disciplines. And they are still great choices to choose, but remember, you're also trying to distinguish yourself from others studying business to really be able to stand out in the competition for internships. So let's talk a little bit about how business has developed since then. Well, of course, there's been kind of a back and forth between looking at business organizations as a machine and looking at business organizations more as a team kind of environment. And so the first kind of iteration of this was through scientific management, thinkers like Deming and the Japanese way of thinking about efficiency in business. And out of that grew the discipline of operations management. Operations management, looking at the production environment within companies, and looking at how to set up the operations efficiently. More recently, one of the big pieces of this puzzle has been in the area of real estate management. Real estate, the buildings of businesses, right? Think of a huge company like Walmart, where they have all these retail locations. Think of a huge service operation like Hilton Hotels, where they have all these buildings around the world to manage. And lots of companies have actually split out the management of their buildings to a separate company. And real estate management is a fantastic new discipline to be involved in. Of course, part of this puzzle of seeing companies as a machine is looking at how the raw materials flowed into the company and how the products flow out of the company through logistics. And more recently, the discipline that really focuses on this is supply chain management, where it's not just about a single business, but it's very much about a network or a chain of businesses all the way from the producers of raw materials to components, to the production, to wholesale, retail, and off to the consumer. So supply chain management, again, a high demand new area where you can do a specialized master's program in that area. So from scientific management grew the understanding that people specialize in different areas, different functions within business organizations. And one of the early disciplines that grew up around this thinking was organizational behavior. Organizational behavior, where they started to think about who does what and specializes in what in organizations. And of course, these days we refer to this very much as human resource management. Again, a much sought after discipline for people who are good at managing personnel, staff, professionals within organizations. As people started to think about the functions of organizations, very quickly, the first function that became a major focus for lots of companies was sales, right? How to sell the products they produced. And with sales came the business discipline of marketing, understanding how the sales can be brought to markets, understanding pricing, product placement, such kind of challenges. And of course, markets recently have really changed with the onset of the digital world, where now there's a great focus on merchandising, and not just merchandising in physical locations, but very much digital retail merchandising on the web. And this is, again, an area that a lot of companies are looking for new talent who can help them move from a traditional merchandising world to more of a digital retail world. And then companies tend to go back from looking internally to looking externally. And this external focus was very much part of starting to do strategic planning. Companies realized that they needed to think about how they were going to grow and expand in the future and how they were going to stand out from their competitors. With that grew up the whole discipline of business consulting, and the degree that really fits best with that is the MBA, which is a more general kind of business degree. Strategic planning, of course, led also to seeing the business as a combination of ventures. And so entrepreneurship and the starting of new ventures became an important element of managing businesses. And recently, a lot of companies have realized that they've become too large, and that within the large company, they're looking to start smaller ventures, which is often referred to now as intrapreneurship, which is entrepreneurship within a larger organization. So strategic planning then gave rise to thinking about competitive advantage, meaning how can the company strive in the future to stay ahead of its competitors? And one of the directions that this kind of thinking has taken, and a strong discipline within the management field, is quality management. Think about the newer lean business practices kind of thinking, those fields. And that's very much related to looking at businesses from a process point of view, right? How can the business get it right first time? How can they eliminate waste? How can they be efficient? And very much at the center of being efficient is doing things effectively using computers. And so came along the discipline of MIS, Management Information Systems. And so for those of you who are very much inclined to quantitative studies, studies in the STEM field, North Texas has a great MIS, a master's in MIS program. And MIS is very closely related, of course, to making decisions. And so decision science is a discipline that grew from that. As companies look at processes, they're not just looking at their current processes, but they're looking at how to arrange the processes better in the future. And from that grew the discipline of change management. And then as companies started to look outward again, they understood that they are actually not just a machine, but they're very much an environment of teamwork. And so there recently has been a swing back to more looking at businesses as a collaborative environment and the focus on how people can work effectively together. And a main challenge there is how to share knowledge, how to share learning within the organization. Now, recently, as our economies are recovering from the pandemic, we are now squarely in a big data world. Big data meaning it's not just about the data and information from within one company or one industry, but data is really pulled from many, many sources. Data lives in the cloud, and so companies are now using big data to make better decisions about new product development, about improving their service levels. And so from this big data, of course, came the challenge, how do you analyze that big data? And so the discipline of machine learning came along, and business analytics. Business analytics, and the University of North Texas is one of the leading business analytics programs in the nation, one of the sure winner areas of research. Where is it all going? Well, your guess is as good as mine, but some of the signs are showing that the new business organizations are all going to be about smart, networked corporations. And of course, with that come new ways to keep track of business information. One of the areas that is very quickly popping up is the area of blockchain, which is a new way of using software to account for business transactions. Many transactions, actually, not just business transactions. So here you have a quick overview of the development of the different business, the key business disciplines. And I'm going to suggest to you that there's two ways to strategize for your own career in which majors to choose. Of course, there's the traditional approach to pursue an accounting degree or a degree in economics and finance. But I suggest to you that to be competitive in this new market where companies are really looking for talent with specialized degrees, it's much more at the outer parts of these developments that you find the disciplines that are going to be in great demand. Instead of just finance, very much focus on risk and insurance in this new volatile environment. In addition to logistics, think about studying supply chain management. In marketing and retail, it's very much about digital retailing these days. In decision science and analytics, business analytics is a great choice. Within the area of people in organizations, knowledge management is a sure winner, and learning technologies in organizations. And for instance, in the area of strategy, intrapreneurship is a skill that is very much appreciated within the new business organizations. So with that, I'm going to line up for you the 6 recommendations that we feel are the great choices for the economy of the future. First of all, we've talked already about the high volatility in the financial markets, the greater risk and uncertainty that there is in business these days. And so companies are having to prepare themselves to make decisions under a lot of uncertainty and to hedge against risk. And so the discipline that really helps companies do that, and where they are constantly looking for new talent, is in the area of risk and insurance. At the heart of that, of course, is actuarial science, the science behind insurance, but also finance and risk is a sure winner in the new economy. A second area that companies are looking for a lot of new talent is in the way that they relate to their suppliers, to their wholesalers. And so this is the area of supply chain and logistics. Supply chain and logistics in Dallas-Fort Worth, where we are located, is a fantastic example of that, where we have the leading companies in the world in supply chain and logistics right on our doorstep. And on our campus, we have a top 5 research institute for supply chain and logistics. So if that's an area you're interested in, North Texas be a great choice for you. Thirdly, remember, much of the sales now happen online, of course, accelerated by the pandemic as well. And so companies are looking for new talent in the area of digital retail and how to keep track of all of that, for instance, through blockchain. Fourthly, remember, we are very much now in this big data environment. And so companies are scrambling to bring in new talent in the area of analytics, and specifically the area of business analytics. At North Texas, we have one of the leading programs in this area. It is STEM designated, which means it also allows you to do as much as 3 years of internship on your international student visa. And then there are 2 specialty areas that I'd like to point out to you that are often overlooked, but where you have some of the best paid functions for new starting students in companies. What you're looking at is our NASA lab on our campus, which focuses on the area of learning technologies and knowledge management. Knowledge management, a field where companies are struggling to how to get people that are really well educated for that area. And then finally, the 6th area that I'd like to point out where companies are struggling to find new employees is employees who are able to do business planning, make ventures grow within a larger corporate context. And so this is the area of entrepreneurship and intrapreneurship. So there are the 6 areas of business that are often overlooked as you think about your careers of the future, areas where there are great specialized master's programs available for you. In addition to perhaps, so you could start out in, for instance, the accounting discipline or finance discipline, but really consider to make these areas at least your major, or perhaps at least your minor, or perhaps your major in business. So with that, let's do a quick look at how U.S. universities set up their application process so that you know what steps will be required. This may be a little bit complicated, but don't worry, there is a lot of great assistance for you to make your application a smooth process. All right, so there are two parties that require information from you for an application in the US. First of all, there are the universities themselves, and secondly, there is the US government. And these parties, the universities want 6 specific things from you, and governments tend to want 4 things. Let's look at the university first. Universities want to know, were you a strong student in the program that you are currently in back in your country? This is why we ask for your transcripts. Secondly, we want to know, have you finished or will you finish soon? For this, we ask for a copy of your diploma or certificate. Then we want to know, when you join us, will you also be able to be successful in our programs? For this, we often require you to do a standardized test, like the SAT or ACT for undergraduate students, like the GMAT and GRE for graduate students. Actually, currently with the pandemic, a lot of these tests are still waived, as in you don't have to take them, because a lot of the test centers are closed. Furthermore, we want to know, when you join us, will you be able to keep up in a very fast-moving English language classroom? For this, we ask you to submit an English language test score, like IELTS, IELTS, or TOEFL, or recently there's also a great online option called Duolingo test. Furthermore, some programs ask you to write a statement of purpose. The statements give us an idea of, will this program be a good fit for you? And then some programs also require letters of reference. Reference where we ask that others who know you well can tell us if you are suited for these kinds of studies. Then the government requires 4 things. The US government, first of all, wants to know, are you really the person you say you are? For this, we require a copy of your passport. Secondly, the government wants to know, are you coming to the US primarily to study, right? Is studying your purpose? Are you going to be a student when you're here? That's what the visa interview is all about. Thirdly, the government wants to know, will you have the financial resources for at least 1 year of your studies? This is where you can show the scholarships you're going to receive, information about your finances. And then finally, and more importantly, recently, the government wants to know, will you not be a health risk to other students? Traditionally, this has been all about the meningitis vaccination, but of course, recently with the pandemic, the focus is also on COVID. So there you see the 10 elements that make up an application to US universities. Sometimes applications are a little simpler, where for some programs you may not require a statement of purpose, or you may not be required some references. At this time, also some of your requirements about standardized tests might be waived. So there's a lot of great help with this. The people at IEFT really understand the application processes to US universities very well. Also, our team at North Texas has a very simple email address, study@unt.edu, where you can ask all of your questions. And so with that, we will go to your questions. We'll drop out of the presentation, and we will come back to a question and answer session. I'll be joined by my colleagues May and Tiara, and we're here to answer any questions you have about the business disciplines of the future and applying to US universities. All right, so with that, May, what kind of questions are you seeing in the chat?
So I'm seeing a question about what's the most popular programs in the College of Business. I guess you've already mentioned a bunch. And also, what's the program's advantage for finding jobs after graduation?
Yes, yes. So the two most popular programs are the MBA and the business analytics programs at the moment. And actually at North Texas, you can do an MBA with specialization in business analytics. And this allows you then to really tailor your MBA to this new market. But by far the fastest growing discipline in the College of Business and the most high demand degree that there is, specialized master's degree, is the MS in Business Analytics. May, what was the second part of your question?
It's like the advantage of this program, especially for landing a job after graduation?
Yes. So we've already talked about the location of the University of North Texas in the Dallas-Fort Worth metropolis. This is the third largest city area in the United States and is one of the fastest growing areas of our economy, with our own Silicon Valley of companies like Dell Computers and high-tech companies like Bell Helicopter and such companies as well. We're also the insurance capital of the United States. And remember, risk and insurance are very much on the mind of a lot of companies. And so there's a lot of great internship opportunities right on our doorstep. And these degrees of the future, like business analytics, really prepare you well for to be competitive. Think of it this way. It's like a pendulum, right? In the past, a lot of students were studying economics, accounting, finance. But of course, when a lot of students study that, then the competition is really great. And so to stand out in that competition, at the moment, it makes a lot of sense to pursue a specialized master's program. And analytics is really the most sought after degree at the moment. Tiara, what other questions are we seeing?
I do have one from Sitane asking, for first-year students, what are the housing options available to them?
All right. Tiara, do you want to answer your own question?
Yes, I can answer the question. So for the first-year students, I'm assuming this is for undergraduate as a freshman. And so freshmen are required to actually stay on campus. We have several dorms catered to different students on campus. So we have Bruce Hall, which is for music. We have an engineering dorm. We have a business dorm. So we have several dorms catered to our students so that they can be in dorms and close proximity to students that are in the same programs. They can do study sessions and things like that. We do have options because international students are already so far away from home. We do have some freshman international students who request that they can live off campus. Typically, it is to stay with family nearby, or for financial reasons, they prefer to stay in a apartment nearby, and so they can fill out a request. This is required for them to fill out if they want to live off campus. But particularly, the school UNT really likes, and you'll see this for every school, likes their freshmen to stay on campus, just so they have meal plans set up for them. They can eat close to campus. They can be next to their classes. They're still learning to get around the school, and so it is always a preferred option to stay on campus. Plus, students get priority, to actually freshmen international students get priority to be on campus, and they should take that opportunity to at least be on campus for the first year.
Great. Thank you, Tiara.
All right.
May, are you seeing any other questions?
Yes. So another question is about OPT opportunity after the graduation. So do we have the OPT opportunities for all the program?
So no, well, yes and no. OPT comes in two forms in the US. There is the STEM-related OPT. STEM means science, technology, engineering, math. And there is the non-STEM OPT. Let's do non-STEM first. Any student that graduates with a bachelor's or a master's degree from the US is allowed to do a period of internship in the US on that same student visa of 1 year. This is called the non-STEM OPT. OPT meaning optional professional training, right? Some programs, though, have what's called the STEM designation. So science, technology, engineering, math. Within business, there are several great programs that have this designation. We've already talked about business analytics, which is a STEM designated program. Also recently, our Masters in Information Systems, Business Information Systems program, also STEM designated. I believe the MBA with the analytics is also STEM designated, which means when a program is STEM designated, you are allowed not just 1, but 3 years of internship on your student visa. And so this is a great opportunity for you as a student, not only to get your degree from the US, but to get a significant amount of work experience as well. You know, a lot of the companies in the new economy, when I talked to the human resource manager from Dell Computers in Dallas here just down the road, they tell me that the careers for students who start out of college, their first career step is roughly this 3-year period before they move on to the next career step, right? And so these internships that allow a student to do a 3-year stint with a company are actually a great fit to these new tech companies who are looking for exactly that kind of a new talent coming in. All right. Tiara, do you see another question?
Yes. There's the question here is basically the new academic year will be planned at campus as the pandemic situation seems to be better in the USA. So just talking about how is fall going to look?
Yeah. May, do you want to answer that?
Sure. So fall, everything going to go back to normal. So basically the classroom capacity and the campus life will resume back to the years before COVID. So we would like to provide students with the best college experience, which means all the activities going to be held on school and students are able to live on campus. You know, everything going to go back to normal. So this is about the campus life. So I also see students are asking about, the COVID situation, is it get better in the US? So currently, we see a lot of students and staff, faculty on campus already get their vaccine, COVID vaccine, which allow that all the students on campus are no longer required to wear masks as a mandatory requirement on campus.
Yeah.
So with that, all the lives, what we see recently is that we see more and more students come to campus for their summer programs, and we expect the same for the fall term.
Great, thank you, May. Now, just to make sure that we're clear about the COVID, the vaccine requirements. Vaccination at the moment in the US, while many people have been vaccinated, vaccination is not a requirement. It's not a requirement for students on our campus as well. But the great news is that the vaccines are widely available for students are right here, also on our campus, and they are free. And so if you haven't had a chance to be vaccinated in your country, you can do that as soon as you get to North Texas. It's widely available both on campus and in the pharmacies around our campus, and it is totally free. So that's the good news about that. There may still be quarantine requirements as you arrive in the US. At the moment, they tend to be 10 days, but it's self-quarantine, right? Where you would just come to campus, stay in your dorm room, and at first participate in classes virtually. And then after the 10-day period is over, and hopefully you can arrive 10 days before the start of class so that you'll be able to be ready to come physically to the classroom on day one. All right. What other questions are we seeing?
We are seeing a question about internship opportunities during the education.
Yes.
Is that available to them?
In a limited way, yes. Remember, the coursework at an accredited business school like the Ryan College of Business at North Texas is very intensive. So your primary focus during the semester is on studies, right? Your studies are, your coursework is a lot of work. In a limited way, there are courses, especially in business, that have built into them some interaction with business organizations. So for instance, some of the marketing programs, students go out to companies, help develop marketing plans, things like that, right? Sometimes they are actually structured in a way that's called CPT, course-based professional training. And your academic advisors can give you much more information about that. But my advice is, for the period that you're studying, when you're doing coursework, very much give yourself the opportunity to focus on that coursework, get strong grades, make use of the opportunity to interact actively with your faculty, because the faculty members are the ones who are going to help you with your exposure to companies, are going to point you to internship opportunities. And so during your study period, you really want to focus on being on campus and being in class. And then just to put off your wish to go into the companies a little bit until you graduate, and then make use of the opportunity for the OPT.
Perfect.
All right. Any other questions we see?
So next question is about Texas as a state. So what makes Texas different from other states in the USA?
Yes. Well, so Texas sometimes thinks they're their own country, right? That makes Texas a little bit special, but there's good reasons why. And that is because Texas as a state has such a diverse economy, right? Texas, of course, known the world over as an oil state, right? The world's largest oil company, ExxonMobil, which is actually also the world's largest company, is located right here on our doorstep in Dallas-Fort Worth. So yes, the traditional carbon-based industry is still a very important sector in our economy. But Texas is also a state that has a number of the major industries of the US. For instance, much of the US defense industry, big tech companies like Bell Helicopter, Lockheed Martin, those kind of, and the space industry, of course, is located in Texas. And so those are very much high-tech drivers of our economy as well. And in addition to that, Dallas-Fort Worth is the insurance capital of the US. So when you think of one of the most important elements of the financial world, risk and insurance, all the major insurance companies have their corporate headquarters either a branch or the actual headquarters located right here in Dallas-Fort Worth.
Yeah, another thing I want to add is the low living cost of Texas compared to, other big cities in the East and the Western coast.
Very good point there, May. So we haven't talked about your budget and about how to finance your studies yet, but location, where you choose to study in the US, is a major component in how your budget will look. And the North Texas area, the cost of living is significantly lower than on the East Coast and West Coast, as much as 25% lower than on the East Coast and West Coast of the US. And so it's just much more affordable to live, to eat, and to go to university in North Texas. Mm-hmm. What other questions stand out?
All right. It looks like we have one question about the kind of activities offered to students. I'm guessing this is on campus and things like that. I guess I can answer a little bit of this.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So one of the big things about college is the groups and that you can be a part of. And we have a lot of international organizations on campus that are catered to different groups. And so we have that's available for students that you can join other like-minded individuals in any kind of interest that you have. We just have multiple organizations, both international and just for activities and things like that. In terms of events, Peter, did you want to talk a little bit about the events on campus?
Sure. And I'll start out by just mentioning, so business students particularly tend to be very competitive, right? They love competitions. So one of the activities that I've always been really proud of in our College of Business is within the supply chain and logistics discipline. These students participate in case competitions around the US, and our College of Business is frequently the #1 winner of these case competitions in the area of supply chain and logistics. And so there's lots and lots of opportunities for students to get involved in the student associations, in many of the festivals from around the world, of course, that are celebrated on our campus. And so the campus, because this is a huge community, this is a 40,000 student community. There's just so many activities going on every day that you could get involved in. Remember though, studies first, right?
Yeah, I also want to add, because I'm a huge fan of music, and I really enjoy to attend all the music, like a concert performance on campus that offered by our College of Music. So UNT College of Music is very famous. It's the largest public college of music in the nation. So I know it's not related to business, but we need a lot of like colorful life after our school, right? So each year we offer over 1,000 performance on campus. It's free to all the students and staff and faculty. So you're just welcome to jump in one of the performance, and I'm sure you're going to very much enjoy it.
Yeah, and music, of course, in itself is a big business. University of North Texas has 2 full orchestras. And when the music students travel, they have 4 of those huge 16-wheel tractor trailers where all their instruments are packed, and they travel all over the US with this huge operation. So if you like logistics, if you like music as a business, there also is a lot to learn on our campus. Mm-hmm. All right. Last opportunity for maybe a final question, Tiara.
It looks like all the questions have been answered.
Okay, let me answer one more question that we often get in sessions like these, which is about scholarships. You know, we've already talked about the cost of living in North Texas, which really reduces the cost of studying here. But we also have terrific scholarships, both for undergraduate students and for the master level students. Undergraduate students, they can gain these scholarships through showing that they have academic merit, meaning that their grades were good, that their ranking class was strong. Graduate students can gain these scholarships often through assistantships, where they help their professor on campus through graduate assistants or research assistants or administrative assistants. And many of these scholarships also, and this is really special about North Texas, give students access to what's called in-state tuition. In-state tuition means you pay like a Texas student, not like an international student, and that may be as much as a 50% reduction in your costs of tuition and fees. And so there are great mechanisms if you are on a limited budget. The choice to study at North Texas is from many aspects, but cost of living and scholarships is a great choice to consider. All right, so with that, Zeynep, we're going to thank you and IEFT very much for this opportunity to present today. And we'll be available to follow up with questions for people on this webinar as well through our email, study@unt.edu. And we really enjoy every time we get the opportunity to interact with the wonderful students from Turkey. You're one of the most colorful and wonderful groups on our campus. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your fantastic presentation, Peter. Also, before we wrap up, could you please share an email address on the chat box so that the participants can directly contact?
Yes, I think I can see Tiara typing, and so she'll put our email. I'll mention it one more time. It is study@unt.edu.
Yes, thank you very much. Also, thank you, May and Tiara, for your answers. We had great questions and you covered them all. Thank you for your answers. And I would like to thank the participants in Turkish as well. Katıldığınız için teşekkür ederiz arkadaşlar. University of North Texas ile ilgili diğer sorularınız için chat kısmında paylaşılmış olan mail adresinden iletişime geçebilirsiniz. Herkese iyi hafta sonları diliyoruz. Thank you very much again, you guys. It was a pleasure to have you in IEFT Talks.
The pleasure is all ours. Thank you so much.
Have a great
Bye-bye.
weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.